Jarrett Labonte Stock Car Racing was released for the PlayStation in the year 2000, and this game would also be known as TOCA World Touring Cars in the European region and would be considered as the third entry in the TOCA Touring Car series that was considered to be one of the most popular racing series ever seen on the PlayStation, that was developed by Codemasters but would be rebranded under this name for the American market, with the cover featuring professional NASCAR drivers. But for all intents and purposes, both versions of the game, regardless of the region, are technically the exact same game. And this was a common practice with multiple games seen not just on the PlayStation but other consoles, especially during the early period of the 90s and so forth, where games would be rebranded under different names regarding the regions that they were in. Another example of this would be the likes of Max Power Racing, which is also another racing game series that was considered to be somewhat popular on the PlayStation, but it was also rebranded as C3 Racing in other regions, with an eventual kind of like re-themed spin-off with an off-road variant with hardcore TR that would replace the cars with trucks instead, but would use all of the same visuals, graphics engine, tracks, everything, but just replace cars with trucks. But with Jarrett Labonte Stock Car Racing, essentially it's just the exact same game as TOCA World Touring Cars. But regardless of the name or the brand, it's the same game, but it's still a phenomenal game in all respects to it, and at the time of its release got great reviews across the board, considering it to be one of the best and most groundbreaking racing titles seen on the PlayStation at that time, and it was often compared to the iconic Gran Turismo series in terms of how it played. While it didn't have the amount of cars and the visual appeal that Gran Turismo had, again that was on another level, but this definitely stood out there among some of the best looking racing games seen on the platform at that time, and was a lot of fun, and is still a lot of fun to play even to this day, as it had a great use of visuals, great aesthetic, great controls, and it just generally was a really good all-round fun game to play in general, that offered a lot of dynamic elements with great use of car visualization in terms of even the damage characteristics. Well, bumpers can hang off, you could smash the windscreen, you could destroy various elements of the body panels and so forth, that just added for a more realistic and dynamic experience overall. Now, compared to the TOCA Touring Car series of earlier games such as TOCA Touring Car Championship and TOCA 2, the handling physics of this game would be drastically changed in favour of a more arcade approach, and it can be felt more so in the handling characteristics, as the handling, depending on the cars you choose, can be a lot more twitchy and cumbersome, even sometimes difficult to control, but it doesn't take away from the overall experience in general, as it is a solid game overall, and once you put time into it, you will definitely have one of the best racing experiences that you can have on any racing game on the PlayStation, hands down. But that's not to say that this game is easy, because for the multitude of options and modes that the game has to offer, and even with the plethora of cars and even tracks that you can play on, this isn't an easy game to pick up and play, and will test your patience, as it requires a lot of finesse and a lot of practice to get used to various dynamics in the game, as one mistake will literally cost you the race. But even at that, you have to contend with overly aggressive computer AI opponents, even on the easiest of difficulties, that will literally overtake you or even try to knock you off the road and crash into you at every opportunity that they can to get an advantage over you. So you pretty much have to play the same game, if you will. Plus, it has great use of different view aesthetics, especially one of the best in-car cockpit views ever seen in a racing game at that time, and it was super realistic because each in-car view was reflective of the type of car that you were driving as the cockpit itself, the dashboard, the steering wheel was all reflective of every car. So even like you could be driving around in a Subaru Impreza WRX and even other cars, and then you could have the Momo steering wheel that was iconic with those type of sports cars back at the time, and that was there. And then you could even drive around in other cars and they had their own unique kind of visual style, even down to the stock cars themselves. They all had their own unique dashboards that were reflective of racing cars of the time, so it was pretty cool for what was on offer. It just was a very good all-round package in general, and regardless of which version that you had, whether you had the North American version or the European version, you were still guaranteed to have a very worthwhile and fun experience, and it is considered by many to be one of the best racing games of all time on the PlayStation. So So for that reason alone, it is definitely worthwhile checking out, as there's just so many cool features on offer here with a great selection of cars that are worthwhile trying out. And there's many cars in this game that you often wouldn't see in racing games, which is another reason why you should try it out also. And I would love to know your thoughts on Jarrett Labonte stock car racing, or TOCA World Touring Cars as it's more commonly known in Europe, for the PlayStation, and if so, what are your thoughts of this awesome game? I'd love to hear whatever stories you have of the game, so be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be updated with future videos. And if you would like to see more content on the channel around similar types of racing games, then be sure to check out this playlist here on screen to see more of those games in action. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.